the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli for the Finali Mondiali weekend. This whole region, a cultural, economic and tourist centre, being the home up the road of the University of Bologna, the oldest university in the world, containing both Romanesque and Renaissance cities. Right up to the modern date, though, here in Misano, as Finali Mondiali features not only the final races of the 2020 season of the Ferrari Challenge, bringing together drivers from the UK, from Europe and North America, but also the XX programs and F1 Clienti. And this is where we are at. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to what is the final race of the 2020 Ferrari Challenge season, and it falls upon the Coppa Shell drivers to deliver what we expect to be a phenomenal 30-minute race around this Misano circuit. The drivers all lined up. They qualified earlier on today in dampish conditions, but ready to do battle in the dry because the tarmac is bone dry right now. It does dry out very quickly here in Misano. And, well, it's a battle of the Netherlands right at the front of the grid because the two Flying Dutchmen, Roger Grols and Fons Skeltermar, head-to-head for P1 going into turn one. Roger Grols, it is on pole position. Misano circuit then here in Italy, and it is a 4.226 kilometre circuit with 6 left-handers and 10 right-handers to challenge the drivers. 16 turns in total. Sector 1 in blue, Sector 2 in yellow, and Sector 3 in Ferrari red. Very challenging circuit indeed, with that stadium section towards the end of the lap, encompassing turns 13, 14 and 15. Weather conditions, well, air temperature is 9 degrees, track temperature is 15 degrees, with just a little blustery wind amounting to no more than 4 kilometres per hour. That's the way it looks, and that's the way the grid looks and lines up for this final race of what has been an extraordinarily challenging, forgive the pun, 2020. See there the 178 car of Axel Sartingen going from P4 on the grid. Alongside is Ernst Kirschmeier, and walking this way down the grid to the right-hand side, the 103 car of Boris Gideon, and to the left-hand side it's Thomas Gosner. And here we can see to the left-hand side the Axel Sartingen car, and to the right-hand side it is the Ernst Kirschmeier car.
Ciao, and welcome to Misano, Italy, where they're hosting the Ferrari Mondiali. I am Eileen Bildman, racing with Ferrari of Long Island with the Ferrari Challenge. I'm so excited to be here with my team. The livery itself is a tribute to my son, who I lost in 2001. And he was someone that was larger than life and loved racing. So therefore, the gargoyle stands protection because I know he's protecting me. Well, I had the opportunity to sit in George Clooney's Enzo, and I was starting it up and said, oh my gosh, this is the car for me. I love the way the cars handle. I think that the performance of the car, the sound of the car, the sexiness of the car is just something that you can't do without. Once you drive one, you are just addicted. The Challenge Series is a great place. Everybody should try it. Gentlemen, it's time to go race. Let's start our engines.
The lovely Eileen Bildman from the North American series of the Ferrari Challenge. She really is a lovely personality and a very, very good racing driver as well. Thanks for that piece to camera, Eileen. Really appreciate it. 5 minutes to the start of the race, as you can see, as the 5-minute board is held up ahead of all of our drivers, and Eileen Bildman is one of them, Coppa Shell driver in this race for, as she said, Ferrari of Long Island. The safety car there, ready to lead the cars away. Now, I think I'm right, and Nico, my colleague alongside me, although for social distance reasons, not right alongside me, is in the studio next door, but can't see me any more than I can see him. I think every race we've had this weekend has been punctuated by a safety car intervention, Nico.
Well, thank you for putting me on the spot there. Did we have a safety car in the previous race today?
Yes.
Okay, then we definitely had one in every race thus far. Yes, I mean, it has been changing conditions earlier today. And the first few turns of this circuit, especially on lap 1, are always something to look out for, because that's where the drivers and the cars get together very, very close. So we hope that we won't have a safety car today, and the drivers can get everything out of the 30 minutes that are allocated to their racing.
Okay, let's check out our pole sitters now.
Roger Growell's a very wet pole position, and now all change. Very dry situation for you.
Hey, hello. Yes, I have a good qualification in the wet. That was perfect for this race today on pole position. I'm very happy. Last year also pole position Misano. I like the circuit, so let's keep it to the front and hope for a good finish. Thank you.
Well done, Roger, who's going from pole position, and thanks to Mikhail Simoncich for getting hold of him, the pole position driver down there. Boris Gideon is pole for the AM drivers. 3 minutes now before that safety car will be released, and then the cars will follow for the formation lap. Rolling lap as always. Looks like we are almost ready to go. And then 30-minute race underway for our Coppa Shell drivers. So as I mentioned then, it is the Flying Dutchman at the front. It's Von Skeltermaar and Roger Grolls. And as Nico pointed out, the first sequence of turns here at Misano, something of a pinch point, turns 1, 2 and 3. So it'll be very interesting to see and hope that all the cars get through there unscathed, as it were. It hasn't always been the case. It is something of a tricky one to get absolutely right. You can see there's a bit of cloud around, and the temperature really is un-Misano-like, if I can be so bold, but after all, we are in March, and therefore it is entitled to be where it's at. Collection of Ferrari officials, and there's the brilliant Daniele, who works so hard for the Corsa Clienti team of the Ferrari Challenge. Nice to see him on the telly. And our safety car ready to lead them away. So all the engineers have left the grid, and it is going to be down to the drivers to do the business across this 4.226 kilometre circuit there. The 338 car of Kevin Milstein. Just ahead of him is Werner Genter. Ahead of Werner Genter is the 121 car of Paul Rogers. And ahead of Paul Rogers, you can see the 182 car of Willem van der Vorm, going through all the drivers that we possibly can pre-race and before we get it underway. So there, the marshal standing by to hold up the 1 minute board, and then the sense of anticipation and the sense of excitement within the drivers really accentuates. So 1 minute to the formation lap. Our race director, Claudio Garavini, on the team radios then, of which we have exclusive access as well. And may I just add that the race control radio has no delay on it whatsoever. We hear it as it happens. So that's really, really good and very, very informative as well. So safety car is about to leave in about 28 seconds time. And then the cars will follow. They'll form up side by side in grid formation behind the safety car, and then the race will be underway. So safety car is released, and the cars will shortly follow. Here is the grid in full for you. Roger Grolls and Von Skeltermaar occupy row 1 of our final race of 2020's grid. Then it's Ernst Kirschmeyer and Axel Sardigan. Best of the AM drivers to show is Boris Gideon going from P5. Alongside him is Thomas Gostner. Then we find Christian Kinch and Miroslav Weibo on the 4th row of the grid, P7 and P8. P9 and P10 occupied by Mikhail Simoncich and Alex Fox. Then we find Willem van der Vorm, who is going from P11 And it's Joachim Lander alongside with Paul Rogers and Lisa Clark on the 7th row of the grid, P13 and P14. Werner Genter and Brad Horseman are on the 8th row of the grid, P15 and P16. And two USA drivers together, Kevin Milstein and Eileen Bildman, ahead of Corinna Gosner, who had an off in qualifying and therefore starts from the very back of the grid. This is the shot from our safety car at the von Skeltermark car, I think that was. Or it might have been Roger Groves. I beg your pardon, we're not on the safety car. It's Ernst Kirschmeyer that we're on board with. Therefore, we were looking at the car of Axel Sartingen. And the colour codes for Europe, red; for North America, blue. So Groves, Skeltermark, Ernst Kirschmeyer, Axel Sartingen occupying the first 4 rows. They're the 327 car of Lisa Clark. And this Misano circuit here in Italy, playing host to the Finali Mondiali, originally scheduled, of course, for the end of 2020, but for obvious reasons, that got postponed and moved to this March date, and we're just thrilled to be here. And that's the shot I thought I saw a couple of frames ago. From the safety car, looking at the Roger Groves and von Skeltermark cars, weaving from side to side, generating temperature into those tyres ahead of the start of this race. And going into turns 1, 2 and 3, you want to get as much temperature into those tyres as you possibly can. And it'll take some aggression to generate the temperature today, because the ambient temperature and the track temperature colder than ordinarily you would expect. So Fons and Roger will be side by side, as will Ernst and Axel on the next row of the grid. Then it will be Boris Gideon and Thomas Gosner and Christian Kinch and Miroslav Weibo. You can see Roger Groves really champing at the bit here, and in so doing, what he's hoping to do is just out-psych von Skeltermark just a little bit. So we are completing the lap. We're just reaching the conclusion of the lap. The safety car will peel off into the pit lane. It'll be the responsibility of the drivers at the front to control the pace. Stand by for us to go racing. The lights go green, and Roger Groves gets a good start, and he should head into turn 1 in P1. Von Skeltermark tries to outbrake. Look at Ernst Kirschmeyer through on von Skeltermark, who carries just a little bit too much speed. And so it's Groves from Kirschmeyer from Skeltermark. Then it's Axel Sartingen in P4. Thomas Gosner has already got past Boris Gideon, and Boris Gideon now involved with Alex Fox. And there is a tap, and a couple of cars go round. And it's picked up Mikhail Simoncich and Thomas Gosner. And also involved there is Miroslav Weibo. So there's a gaggle of 4 or 5 488 Challenge Evo cars involved in that incident through that sequence of turns, which, Nico, we've said time and time again, is the opening few turns that are a real pinch point here in Misano.
Yeah, definitely. And it looked like Boris Gideon got a little bit of a nudge from the side. It was Alex Fox, I believe, and there we can see it. Alex Fox trying to dive on the inside, trying to pull back as far as I can see, but he had too much momentum, and yeah, just caught a little bit of the Boris Gideon car, and Thomas Gosner was alongside, and he got spun around, and then from there on out, it was just a lot of roadblock.
You're absolutely right. You've called that correctly. And subsequently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars involved in that. And the 103 car of Boris Gideon is not going anywhere. And if they can't move that car to a place of safety, but I think they can, it's right by one of the exit points at the barriers. So hopefully there won't be a race suspension. We can keep on racing. So Groves from Kirschmeyer, from Skeltermark, from Sartingen, they're all spreading themselves out a bit now with 3 or 4 car lengths between each. That related to time is about 5, 6 tenths. The top 4 have really broken away, and the reason for that is because of the roadblock that went on behind them. And that means they've got a huge advantage in terms of the track. They are miles ahead of anyone else. So here comes Ernst Kirschmeyer now on Roger Groves. Yesterday, it was completely the reverse, with Groves doing the chasing on Ernst Kirschmeyer. and Ernst was not for moving. And I rather suspect that Roger will be quite steadfast in his position in P1, and he's certainly not going to gift an opportunity I would not have thought for Ernst Gershmeyer to come through. So it will take everything that Ernst has got to try and provoke just a tiny error from Roger Grols to go through. We will see. So Grols, Gershmeyer, Skeltermar, Sardingen. And before we see Alex Fox, who arguably was involved in that and that skirmish at the start, and he's kind of escaped that, and he's running in P5, and indeed is the best of the AM drivers, followed by Christian Kinch, then Corinna Coaster, then it's Willem van der Vorm and Paul Rogers, who's running in P9, but for Paul, he's actually P3 in class, which would be a podium. That's what I like to see here in Misano. Skeltermar then, almost under pressure now from Axel Sardingen. Axel is not quite as close as he would like to be. Grols sets the fastest lap then, a 1:37.791. And the gap between Sardingen and Alex Fox, just to reinforce the advantage that the top four cars have got, is some 6 seconds, Nico. So that coming together on the opening lap delayed everybody, didn't it?
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting how race control views that incident, because there is no question about that. Alex Fox provided the first nudge which sent off the chain reaction. So Claudio Garavini, our race director, will have a good look whether he thinks Alex Fox is at fault for that or if that was still a racing incident. And that would obviously even more stretch the gap between the top four and the remainder of the grid should Alex Fox get a penalty.
Yes, you're absolutely right. What it has done, if I may say, is in terms of the Shell AM drivers, it's brought a couple of drivers into the top three that perhaps we wouldn't ordinarily see. Willem van der Vorm for Scuderia Monte Carlo, and Paul Rogers, who of course is a UK racer and is here in the Challenge Finali Mondiali event this weekend, and he'll be jolly pleased and well deserved of a podium if he can pull it off. And we will see. I think Sardingen now is beginning to pressure von Skeltermar quite significantly. So Axel Sardingen now, this is the chase on for the final podium place in terms of the Pirelli drivers. That P3 place is held at the moment by the Shark's Teeth fronted car of von Skeltermar, but being chased hard by Axel Sardingen for Lueg Sportivo. Roger Grols running quite wide there. Track limits, something that has been the focus of race direction's attention all weekend long. And just because you're leading the race doesn't mean that you're not being watched by race control. And if you take too much of an advantage out of exceeding the track limits, then you're not immune from being penalised for that, or certainly warned in the first instance. So where can Sardingen then push Fons into making an error for advantaging himself for an overtake position? Well, this is one of the places by trying to get Fons to run exceptionally wide, and if he can tuck up into the inside, but he wasn't able to do it on that occasion. And of course, the more these two fight, that just enables Roger Grols and Ernst Gershmeyer, who are kind of on a pace of their own at the moment, just to escape up the road. They're both in the mid-137s, whereas Fons and Axel Sardingen here are in the high 38s at the moment in terms of lap time. So the pace advantage certainly with the P1 and P2 driver at the moment. Okay, is Sardingen going to line up von Skeltermar now for a go for P3, going through that first sequence of turns? He needs to get alongside Fons if he can, and tries to get the draft off the back of the 488 Challenge Evo car of von Skeltermar. Was unable to do so, and therefore he is just behind and has to stay behind rather than trying a move alongside, which he's not been able to push Fons into yet. So Skeltermar doing a good job in terms of just keeping the car between the white lines, and you can see that Axel Sardingen is just a little bit more ragged. And I can tell you that from race control, the incident involving cars 139, 103 and 161, no further action to be taken. have to be honest, Nico, I'm a bit surprised by that.
Yeah. Yeah, fair point. But I do think, I mean, it was visible that Alex Fox tried to duck out of that move. He definitely didn't, just go all in on that. So I do understand the rationale between, he tried it, he moved out of it, but he just had a little bit too much momentum. Now you can argue you are responsible for your car at all times. Fair point too. I don't think there is a real wrong in that. I can understand arguments for both sides. So I think Claudio is a wise man.
Indeed, and perfectly fair. Perfectly fair. So he's viewed it, and he views it from a lot of different angles. There are something like 30, 35 screens from static cameras around the circuit that they have in race control. And, if you think we have a lot of cameras for our television production, which is first class, it's nothing in comparison to race control, and they can very much opt and act as head teachers, Nico, and nothing gets lost. They see everything.
Indeed, and we just saw, although thus far only on the timing screen, Mikhail Simoncich overtaking Paul Rogers for P3 in the AMs, and Simoncich is really chasing this man, Alex Fox, leader in the AMs, who is chased on the track by Corinna Gostner, unfamiliar livery, because I believe she's borrowed the car from her brother David for this occasion after her off in qualifying.
That's a very good spot. You're right. She is in the David Gostner car and not her familiar black and pinkish colours. You're quite right. Good spot there. So there is von Skeltermar, and whatever Axel Sardingen has thrown at von Skeltermar, he's not been able to find a way by. And incidentally, Christian Kinch has managed to get by Alex Fox. So Christian Kinch, albeit he's a full 10 seconds down on Axel Sardingen, the very man that we see here now really, really pressuring von Skeltermar. Christian Kinch now is P5 on the road and P5 within class as well. Here's Grols and Kirschmeyer, and the pace deficit between the two of them means that Ernst Kirschmeyer is some 2.8 seconds down on Roger Grols. In the meantime, the margin between von Skeltermar and Axel Sardingen is measured in but 4 tenths. And you can see that, Fons has responded with regards to pace, but undoubtedly Sardingen has got a little bit more to offer. But as we've said time and time again, Nico, you can be faster than the car in front of you, but you're still not necessarily in front of the car in front of you, if that makes sense. You've got to get by.
I think that was almost predictable, that you're not ahead of the car in front of you, but I think we all understood.
Oh,
yeah, it is difficult to get past these 488 challenge cars if you have someone ahead of you who knows how to drive it and place it exactly where you would like to go, but you can't because the car is already there. And I think von Skeltermar certainly is one of those who can do exactly that, drive brilliant defensive racing.
That's me banging my head against the wall, which echoes in Nico's studio as well, because he's right next door. So I thought, why irritate just me? Let me irritate him as well. Brilliant replay shot here of the Roger Grols car. I have to say, the livery across the Raceart Kroijmans car of Roger Grols I've always liked, and I do think it looks good. Again, we've said many, many times, if you've got that blank canvas of a 488 Challenge Evo car to work with, you saw Fabien Volvend watching on from the pit wall. It's a beautiful piece of canvas to use, and we've seen some fantastic liveries, and I must single out the Eileen Billman one for which we saw at the beginning of the program from Ferrari of Long Island as being one of those that is super special, and of course of huge significance to her as well personally. So there we are, 488 Challenge Evo. A beautiful car made even nicer still by some of the really, really creative colour schemes and liveries that we see on them. This is Mikhail Simoncich. So Mikhail Simoncich now is in a podium place. He's P3 and he's chasing down Willem van der Vorm, and he's not so far behind Alex Fox that he might not be able to get a challenge in before the end of the race, but he does really need to dispose of Willem van der Vorm first. And here's Willem van der Vorm running in P2. I think he would be the first to admit that he was able to take advantage of the opening lap crash, which saw him with great avoidance and propelled himself up the order. And Mikhail Simoncich now, you can see with the damage to the front of his car, brought about by that opening lap sequence of events which he was involved in through actually no fault of his own. So Alex Fox leading from Willem van der Vorm, then Mikhail Simoncich, then it is Paul Rogers in P4, then Miroslav Weibo, Werner Genter, Joachim Olander, Eileen Bildman, Lisa Clark, and of course Boris Gideon unfortunately is out of the race with the damage sustained. Skeltermar has been brilliant here in defending against Axel Sartingen, but now Sartingen does take a cheeky look at the inside, and I think he's got away with it. Just as I was saying, Fons had done so well in defending, very cheekily. Almost he wanted to prove me wrong. Axel Sartingen came through like a speeding bullet and has put himself into that final Shell podium place by pushing Fons Skeltermar back to P4. I have to be honest, I really didn't see that coming, Nico.
Yeah, that was a brilliant move, and I do think it also surprised Fons Skeltermar a little bit. Didn't see that coming either, and then, you know, Fons certainly could have made the switch back, but there was the Axel Sartingen car, and, you know, the next left turn, Sartingen was still on the inside, and that just didn't allow Fons to go on the line he wanted to go, and well driven by Axel Sartingen, fair between the two of them. Great racing the way we want to see it.
And just in that replay, we saw from how far back he came. And now he has been released from the clutches of the shark's teeth. Look how Sartingen is able to get up the road. Very, very impressive overtake from a long way back, but it was perfectly fair. Only just held onto it on the tarmac, though, to be fair. He ran almost quite wide. Watching Joachim Olander. Well, let's see. Oh, engage reverse now. And indeed, left hand down a bit, right hand now, and get it back onto the tarmac. So Joachim Olander there. I don't think there was anything that made that happen other than just perhaps a little bit too ambitious going into the turn, maybe carrying a little bit too much speed. I think he was completely on his own. Gap between Grols and Kirchmayr, it's still just a shade under 3 seconds. This is Ernst Kirchmayr, hard at work inside his car. Just keeping an eye on the rearview mirror of Axel Sartingen, who's got some 7 seconds to try and close in on Ernst Kirchmayr, which would be quite a big ask, I would suggest, with the 14.5 minutes of racing time that we have remaining. But Grols really hasn't put a foot wrong in the race. And, the early challenges from Ernst Kirchmayr, he was able to defend well, and that means that he's currently in a relatively comfortable position. Here we can see Thomas Gosner on the inside of Brad Horstman, and Gosner goes through. This is for P7 and P8 in the race overall. Brad Horstman, Coppa Shell driver from North America. And Thomas Gosner now putting the chase on to Paul Rogers next in his target sights. And there you just saw Paul Rogers go through on camera and on your screen. And there Bradley Horstman in the 305 car for Foreign Cars Italia. Thomas Gosner, of course, his daughter Corinna also in this race, but in the car of her brother David. And Corinna currently running in a creditable P6. Albeit 6 seconds down on the P5 driver Christian Kinch. So the margin between Grols and Kirchmayr, 2.454. There is Ernst Kirchmayr in the 109 car. There's our race leader, 188. Roger Grols. So the 1, 2, 3 for Shell drivers, Grols, Kirchmayr and Sartingen. And the 1, 2, 3 in the AMS, it's Alex Fox, Willem van der Vorm, and Mikhail Simoncich. Simoncich is closing in on Willem van der Vorm, perhaps not as quickly as he would like. Great split shot here with the car on the main screen and the driver, Ernst Kirschmeyer, to the top right-hand side of your screen, hard at work inside that 488 Challenge Evo. See just how much input and what jolly hard work it is to drive these cars to the optimum around this Misano circuit. Over the timing line, another lap done. And Kirschmeyer has taken some time out of Roger Grohl, some 6/10 or so. So the gap now is 1.846, which is down on the 2.4 it was on the previous lap. So all over yet, although I can't help but feel that Roger will be very well aware of the fact of where Ernst is, and if he feels that Ernst's threat is sharpened, then Roger will respond, I don't doubt. You could just see in the close of that shot the Axel Sardingen car. Axel, who's put 2 full seconds over von Skeltermar since he got past him, he's got a big gap to eradicate to try and get on terms for the P2 position, or even challenge for it. And again, we've just under 11 minutes of the race remaining. Not sure. See healthy chunks of the Pirelli rubber come off the cars as we look at Manuela Gosner on the pit wall of the MP Racing garage. David Fuminelli, I think I could see there in on another one of the pit garages as well, working, I don't doubt, for one of the teams in a coaching capacity. David Fuminelli actually lives virtually on the Monza circuit. I mean that. And very, very good driver. So here is Corinna then. And as Nico pointed out, Corinna Gosner driving the car of her brother David. This, in the meantime, is Alex Fox and Willem van der Vorm. And you know what, Nico? I really thought that Mikhail Simoncich would be able to take it to Willem van der Vorm, but credit to Willem van der Vorm. He's seen off the challenge, hasn't he? He's seen off the charge, because the margin between them is 4 and a bit seconds.
Absolutely, and just off screen, Corinna Gosner has gone. Sorry. Mikhail Simoncich has retaken his position past Corinna Gosner. Yeah, but he's significantly slower than Willem van der Vorm, to the tune of a second and 3/10 per lap consistently. So Willem van der Vorm is really putting the pressure on Alex Fox, and van der Vorm has had his podium positions already this year, but he hasn't won one. So, I mean, we might see a first time there in the AMS. And equally Kirschmeyer, he's been consistently knocking off time from his deficit, and there is Corinna Gosner.
So that will be the reason why then. It proves, if nothing else, just how much on a knife edge you are. You drive the car to the absolute limit, Nico, and you know, just sometimes you push a little bit over that limit and it bites you on the bottom, doesn't it?
Yeah, and she had that excursion already during qualifying, which is the reason she's in a different car now. Unfortunate there, and another spin there. But that obviously may be caused by the fact that it is not her car. It's a little bit unfamiliar, and it just hands ever so slightly differently, and that possibly has contributed to that spin. So this is going to be an interesting battle for the remainder of the race, and equally interesting will be the battle in the AMS. It's only half a second between Alex Fox and Willem van der Vorm, and it's a second and a half between those two drivers. Nothing is decided in terms of who will be on the top step of the podium in either class.
No, and you know, with it being the final race of the 2020 season, Willem van der Vorm really is throwing absolutely everything at this now, because, as you pointed out, Nico, the top step of the podium, final race of 2020, even though we're in 2021. That would be quite an honour, wouldn't it? And that would be a good thing to close the season out. Of course, we do still have the world final races to come tomorrow, but they are non-championship races. And look at the pace that Willem van der Vorm has got relative to Alex Fox, Nico. You picked up on this, and Willem is on a charge, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And his lap times are really, really creditable. The previous one not as quick as the ones before, but he had lapped in the 1:38 and is therefore on par with the likes of von Skeltermeyer and Christian Kinch, and that is very, very creditable for anybody. And he is really going to be looking for that first win, I'm sure.
So we see the Ernst Kirchmayr car now then into turn 1, now turn 2, and just a quick blast of throttle before we reach turn number 3. He is some 2.5 seconds down now on Roger Grols, which I think, if anything, it just reinforces what I was saying, that I think Roger is very much aware of the gap between himself and Ernst, and when Ernst does put the pedal to the metal and really increases his pace, then Roger responds, and I think Roger has got the car underneath him to enable him to respond like that, so that Ernst does not become such a threat. Now, don't get me wrong, it would only take a small error from Roger Grols and the loss of just a couple of tenths through misaligning a corner or the trajectory being not absolutely perfect, and Ernst would be there and ready to pounce, but Roger tends not to make mistakes, and I just do think that he's managing this gap between himself and the P2 driver perfectly, as you see the brake discs light up. But we have seen Roger go wide at that particular turn once before, and we'll see. But I think for the moment he's just managing the race really, really well, and Ernst and he have huge respect between each other. They've had some really fraught fights on track this season. It's been a joy for us as race fans to enjoy, but also equally rewarding is the fact that they are good friends as well, and they have immense respect for each other's racing abilities. And it's fair to say, Nico, with the juggling of P1 and P2 positions, there's almost been like a sense of camaraderie between the two of them, even though, of course, when the green flag goes down, all friendships go out of the window because you're racing.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember specifically Portimao, where I think it was Roger who was leading the race, and Kirchmayr had to start from the very, very back, and at some point was about 10 seconds down, and he came so close that Roger said, well, another lap on this, and Ernst would have probably overtaken me. And he said that with the utmost of respect and credit to his competitor. So, as we see...
now that's Miroslav Weibo on Paul Rogers, isn't it?
Indeed. Well spotted there. That is for
that will
P4
be...
in the AMS.
Good driving from Miroslav Weibo. Good driving from Paul Rogers as well. I think, to the best of my knowledge, this is Paul's first experience of the Misano circuit, whereas Miroslav has got some knowledge of the circuit. And track knowledge sometimes, Nico, is oh so valuable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As we can see, Roger Grols coming up on a backmarking car that may be the Lisa Clark car.
It is.
But she has no intention of letting Roger just go by.
Well,
but equally
to be fair to Lisa, I think she took a different line through that turn to enable Roger to go. However, Roger did have to work for it. Now Ernst Kirchmayr will come up against the backmarking Lisa Clark car now. And Roger running wide there, and just, you know, we may only have 3.5 minutes left, but track limits are still being looked at. And the reason I'm saying that is we get a message up on our screen right now saying that car 305, and that's the car of Bradley Horseman, is being warned with regards to track limits. So it is still, you know, it remains the focus of race direction right until the end of the race. Now, Willem van der Vorm is within 4/10 of Alex Fox. 3 minutes left in the race. This is the best driving I've seen from Willem van der Vorm, I think. probably all season long, because he has not let this challenge rest. He's gone and gone and gone after Alex Fox here.
Yeah, definitely. Willem van der Worm, 2 podium positions, P3 thus far. So P2 would be a new height, but he wants P1. Not quite there yet, but he's definitely showing, and he's definitely showing that he wants that P1. And Alex Fox, he has to defend. He obviously the champion of this series, and but you know, no quarter given nor asked for.
Oh, this is brilliant to watch them, Nico, because Willem is trying to unsettle Alex. Alex is taking a slightly different line to Willem. That gives Willem the sort of pace advantage in a couple of corners, but Alex is he's defending, and he's defending well, but Willem is pushing him, and what he's hoping for, I guess, is just the tiniest of errors from Alex Fox ahead of him, like running very, very wide. Now, ooh, big respect to Willem van der Worm there, Nico. He backed out of that because he knew that that would cause a collision.
Yeah, definitely. That was a spot where you generally can't overtake, but that doesn't mean that you can't overtake. He's going to try anyway, and that's magnificent racing. 2 more laps, by my reckoning, that we will have. This and 1 more. And Willem van der Worm has not given up on his quest to take the W.
See, he's just lining him up nicely here. What he wants is for him to run just a little bit wide so that he can sneak up on the inside. It didn't quite pay out. He's got no problems behind because the next car behind him is Thomas Gosner, so he's not in the same class, so he's not got to worry too much about leaving himself exposed. He really is pushing. May I just bring to your attention, Nico, Race Control have just warned Ernst Kirchmayr for the final time about track limits. Good job that we have only got a couple of laps left.
Yeah, I mean, Kirchmayr, P2, he might even get away with a 5-second penalty if that came to it, because he's got such a margin over Axel Sartingen. But obviously,
right.
He doesn't want to take a penalty, and his headmaster and team principal, Philip Barron, will have something to say about that.
Would that not be, that would be, I'd love to be in the pit garage for that. I'll make my way down there if that were to come to pass. Right, we're about to start the final lap for these drivers. This is Alex Fox and Willem van der Worm in the Coppa Shell AM classification. Right. Oh, and von Skeltermar has lit up all of a sudden against Axel Sartingen, Nico. It's going to be a final fight and flourish finish here, isn't it?
Yeah, where did he come from? I'm tempted to ask. Sartingen had a solid lead over Skeltermar, but the shark is always there and he's fighting until the very end, and that is what Axel Sartingen has to deal with now, with 5 or 6 turns remaining for those drivers, a little bit more for these two. And now Thomas Gosner getting involved in this as well.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Right, Willem van der Worm to the inside, knows he can't do it. Again, discretion the better part of valor. He doesn't want to cause a problem. I mean, he's a very, very fair driver. In the meantime, so far ahead is Roger Grols and Ernst Kirchmayr. We have got to salute another victory for Roger Grols. He takes the checkered flag ahead of Ernst Kirchmayr. Then comes Axel Sartingen, stays ahead of von Skeltermar to take P3. Von Skeltermar is P4. And in the AMS, Alex Fox has probably done enough. A really, really good effort from Willem van der Worm to try and get past Alex Fox, but he was not able to succeed. And one more turn means that it looks as if Alex Fox is going to take victory for the AMS ahead of Willem van der Worm. And it should be Mikhail Simoncich, just see him at the back of the shot there, that will take P3 in the AM classification. So some tremendous battles going on at times in that race. And Roger Grols, well, masterclass of how to manage a gap. and ensure that your challenger is not able to pounce. Another good drive from Roger Grols. He really is a talented driver. Ernst Kirchmayr equally so in trying to chase him down, was just denied. Good Coppa Shell race to round out the 2020 season, Nico.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of entertainment. A little bit of a seesaw battle where you had drivers getting a lead and then being pulled back in. And therefore, fair play to all the drivers giving their absolute best here on this afternoon. And now, after this race, obviously, the focus will turn to tomorrow's World Final race, very early tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. local time. These drivers will be out again, battling each other.
9 a.m.
Sorry, it's
Yes.
8 a.m. in the UK if anyone's watching from there. So you have to get up even
so you-
earlier.
Set your alarms early to make sure you don't miss it. Please, our alarms will be set earlier, but pleasingly, we've got an hour advantage over you. There's Ernst Kirchmayr. He tried everything to find the advantage over Roger Grols, but it wasn't to be today. But the podium celebrations will be just as sweet as they always are, because, as we've mentioned, the huge respect they have between each other. A really good Coppa Shell race. Well done. And as Nico has alluded, here in Misano, we have the World Final races tomorrow. Over the many years I've been involved and privileged to be involved in the Ferrari Challenge, I've entitled them the Gold Roof races, Nico. And Gold Roof for this man, Roger Grols. Well, you certainly wouldn't bet against it, would you? Great job done there from Roger Grols. And good chase from Ernst Kirchmayr. And doubtless Philip Barron will say to him now, I saw 24 opportunities where you could got by him. Why didn't you? He is that headmaster figure, Nico.
Well, it's tough love to motivate. What else can you say? Excellent starting. I'm not sure what pushes his buttons, but they were pushed well for a great drive today.
Indeed.
Yeah, took me too long, eh?
Indeed. So all
Better safe than...
the cars in Parc Fermé.
Hi.
Axel Sardingen for
Hi,
Lou
Ferrari, how's it
Exportivo.
going?
Well done. Great drive.
Hi, you want to see me in full face? I put my mask on in a second.
Yeah.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank
Hi,
you so
nice
much.
to meet you, Italy. Nice to meet you,
Axel, great star. Right, here's the classification. Roger Grols, Ernst Kirchmayr, Axel Sardingen, who you've just seen is auditioning. 1, 2, 3. And then in the AM drivers, it was Alex Fox, Willem van der Vorm and Mikhail Simoncich. Ah. Misano has talent. There's no question about that. Oh, Roger Grols then, race winner, not for the first time this season. He's had a phenomenal season. He is indeed the Coppa Shell champion, and Alex Fox is indeed Coppa Shell AM champion. Let's hear from the bearded Roger Grols in just a moment. First off, let's action Coppa Shell race here in Misano.
Roger, you stay on the lead for all the race, pole position, winner the race, simple the best.
Awesome. No, that's not true. I keep pushing to the end. Ernst, I saw always in the mirror, so yeah, I had to fight because he can be very quick in the second part. But oh, nice start, first position, finish. It's better, a nice day. So thank you very much. Thanks to the team because the car was very perfect.
And driven to perfection as well, Roger. Well done. Let's take a look at the highlights now of the race. And here's a table of statistics for you. Best progress, Corinna Gosner, look, up 9 places. Alex Fox up 4. Fastest lap for Coppa Shell, Ernst Kirschmeyer, a 1:37.396. And fastest lap in terms of the AMS was Olander with 1:38.049 as a lap time. Mikhail Simoncich will be bringing us the podium ceremonies in just a moment. In fact, here he is.
Europe Race 2. On the podium, Axel Sartingen. Second place, Ernst Kirchmeier. And the winner is Roger Growels from Holland. National anthem. Race 2 shall class. Gentlemen, take your trophy and lift it. Okay, lift it and together on the first step of this podium for the race number 2 of Europe Series 2020. Thank you very much.
And here are the top 3 for Luig Sportivo taking P3. We've just seen him on the podium, Axel Sartingen. For Baron Motorsport, another fine drive from car number 109 and its driver, one Mr. Ernst Kirschmeyer. Racehard did a good job, and so did Roger Growels. It's another win. The final race of the season goes the way of Roger Growels.
Shell M-Class Europe Series. Third on this podium, Mikhail Simoncich. The second place, Willem van der Vorm. And the winner, Monsieur Alex Fox from France. National anthem. Thank you, guys. Take your trophy for you, your winner trophy, and lift it. Okay? And together on the first step for these photos. Second podium, Shell IM Europe class. Thank you.
The Baron Motorsport engineered Mikhail Simoncich, P3 on the podium. For Scuderia Monte Carlo, Willem van der Voort, P2. And rounding out the season in fine style, not only the champion, but winner of the final race as well, Alex Fox.
Second race, Brad Horstman. National anthem. Thank you. The trophy is your trophy. Please lift it and lift your trophy and together, please, together on the first step of the podium. Okay, this is the podium of North American Challenge.
And the drivers we see for Foreign Cars Italia, Brad Horstman. And we also saw Kevin Milstein. What a sound that is from Misano. You hear the sounds of the F1 Clay Indy cars and the XX Programs cars are revving up in the garages, all part of Finali Mondiali. Next competition, of course, for our Ferrari Challenge drivers will be in the World Final Race, the Coppa Shell World Final Race. But here is Eileen Bildman and Lisa Clark, the ladies on the podium.
We have two fast ladies from American Challenge. Please, ladies, take your trophy.
So that is a big red from Eileen Bildman for Ferrari of Long Island. And for Ferrari of Beverly Hills, the car of Lisa Clark. Thank you so much for watching our Coppa Shell final race of the season. Please join us for the World Finals tomorrow. From Nico, from myself, and the whole production crew. Bye-bye now.